The best defense against democracy is to distract people. Professor Noam Chomsky. I'm John Rose. The best defense against the truth movement is to distract them. Are you a conspiracy theorist? Are you confused? Do you question everything? Are we supposed to question everything? Pretty much. Obviously, you don't need to question something that resonates with you because you have the experience of what they're talking about. Like people who have taken a solid food vacation and gone the distance and they know what I'm saying is true. Otherwise, we do want to question everything, but the point here is, do we want to waste our time and research everything? If what we're going to research doesn't mean anything, then we don't want to waste our time and get in debates within the truth movement about certain conspiracies. But that's what's happening right now. The powers that be understand that. Have been using it for a long time. Bread and circuses, right? And how many times have you heard me say, if you've watched any of my other videos, that we got to keep this simple. We're either getting reconnected and bumping up those biophotons, or we're getting distracted. Almost everything is a distraction. And of course, some things warrant our attention. But some things don't. They are a waste of time, because even if we can prove what's true, it doesn't really mean anything. Oh, my heart gets heavy sometimes when I realize how difficult it is for the average person to try to make some sense out of what people call conspiracies. And there are conspiracy theories, but there are also crimes. Conspiracy is a crime. That's why it's a topic. And a conspiracy just means you got to have more than one person committing a crime. And most crimes, the big ones of course, involve at least two people, if not a whole bunch, right? The average person is tricked into thinking, oh, you're a nut. You're questioning the government. Well, folks, you got to question the government if you understand anything. And once you understand anything, if you don't get outraged about what our government's doing and what other governments are doing, you don't really understand. Because you should be outraged once you understand what's happening. We know we can't trust the government. We know the governments lie. We know that they're controlled by a small group of people that are controlling every other major sector of the human endeavor, so they can keep bombarding our brains and keep us distracted. Get us to go down rabbit holes that don't make any difference. Again, it saddens me to see so many people waste their time going down some rabbit holes. Now, there are a lot of conspiracies that warrant our attention. We need to be aware of the fact that they are spraying chemicals in the sky. They're putting poisons in our water, in our food. They're controlling the educational systems, so all of our so-called experts never understand any of this. And then to conflate the issue, they come up with conspiracies that's going to make the rest of us look stupid if we even look into it. And I don't see any problem with doing it if you got spare time. But you know, when your house is on fire, you don't waste your time doing that. When you look at the only thing that matters on this planet, our food and getting reconnected by eating those biophotons, everything else is a joke. You shouldn't be doing anything else but devoting your time to helping people realize that we got to go upstream and get reconnected. And then we got to make sure that we stop putting the chemicals in the air and the water and our food, and that we even think that drugs in any way are going to heal us. Everything's backwards, isn't it, folks? Doctors destroy health. Lawyers destroy justice. Educational systems destroy knowledge. The media destroys information. Just about everywhere you look in our society, everything's pretty much upside down. And it's real easy for some of us to get hoodwinked into thinking, well, we know the government's lie, therefore they've got this agenda. They don't want us to know certain things. So what do, folks? Do you continue to waste your time? going down rabbit holes? Or do you realize the significance of helping people understand that they can do more for their own life by changing what they eat than anything else on this planet? We have to wake up to that. I gotta pause for a second. Oh my goodness. The sun came out, but what's over there when I first came up, it was all black, even before I turned the camera on. And those clouds have gone away. Anyway, it's supposed to start raining maybe in 2 hours here. I had to digress for a moment. Just thinking that when I look back, I'd see a bunch of dark clouds and see what it looked like, but that's not happening. No, that's not a green screen. Anyway, that sun's going to be disappearing in a moment. I guess what I want to do here is try to unite all the members in the truth movement. You guys do yourself a favor. We know there are a lot of things that are not right, and we can make a list of all those things that we want to look into a little bit more. We might want to study fluoride a little bit more. We might want to study chemtrails a little bit more. We might want to study vaccines a little bit more. And what we have to do is say, we can only do so much, right? You know, what's the most important thing to study? Let's put things in a priority list. And when something's at the very bottom, because it doesn't affect anything, we don't want to put any energy into it. Not when our house is on fire, folks. And that's what we're talking about here. If our house wasn't on fire, I'd say, fine, spend some more time and research that. But our house is on fire. We're being distracted. We got to get reconnected, folks. We got to realize what would happen to this planet if we reached the tipping point where we were all eating our biophotons. Of course, that's what happens once we reach a tipping point, because everyone else jumps on board. It's that 100th monkey. If all of us were eating our biophotons, which can only come inside something that's living, you put it in fire, it's dead. It can't store that sunlight energy in it anymore. Can't bump up our sixth sense or our spidey sense. It only comes from those living foods. And what would happen if we all bumped up our biophotons? What would happen if we all had 6 strong senses instead of 5 and just a fraction? It would change our mentality. The mob would no longer be a problem. And remember, democracies go through 9 main stages. I did a video called Satan's Secret Weapon, where I explained the Kyklos cycles, K-Y-K-L-O-S, Kyklos cycles, where governments go through cycles way back in Aristotle's day. Starts off in a monarchy, then an aristocracy, and then a democracy. But those 3 started because of oligarchy. That's where the mob rules. I'm not mispronouncing oligarchy. This is oligarchy. Mob rule. We're out of control. And that's because we lost one of our senses, because we're cooking our food. That's what created monarchs, aristocrats, and then democracies. And then democracies go through these same 9 stages. We start off in bondage, but then we find spiritual truth. And from truth, we go to courage. From courage, we go to abundance, or liberty. From liberty, we go to abundance. And then from there, it's downhill. Then we go to selfishness, complacency, apathy, and dependency. We're in the dependency stage right now. Well, what happens? The mob rules once again. Of course, here in America, we're supposed to be a republic. But we always talk about spreading democracy, right? And of course, when you look at those 3 forms of government, that you may argue, well, that's a long time ago, John. It's gotten more complicated since then. Okay, that's another rabbit hole we don't need to go down. Why? Because we don't need to figure out how it got complex. We got to go back to how it all started. What preceded the monarchs? Oligarchy. Disconnected. That's why the ultimate solution to just about every problem is to get reconnected. Otherwise, you get distracted. Whether it has to do with democracy or whether it has to do with any truth movement out there. So please, guys, make a list of your priorities. Realize what's at the bottom of the list, and why is it down there at the bottom of the list? Because it doesn't make any difference. Don't waste your time, because all you're doing is getting on message boards and fighting with people. Don't you see what you're doing? You realize there's other problems But you got hoodwinked into this one. And you're never going to be able to figure it out. You're never going to be able to prove anything. And it wouldn't matter if you could anyway. It doesn't make any difference except to illustrate once again, can't trust our governments. They lie. We know that. Governments are a problem. But they're a subsequent need because we're disconnected. Glockery, mob rule. And we're sliding into mob rule right now in democracy. Boy, that thing's buzzing around me so fast. Can you hear him? I can hear him. What is that? A fly or a bee? Probably a fly. Horsefly. We're at that point. We're in that dependency stage. This is where the mob will vote itself into bankruptcy. Let's help everybody. They're too big to fail. Let's bail them out. Odious debt, folks. Most of the debt we owe is made up. It's odious. And we could wipe it out overnight if we ever woke up to all of this. And how do we do it? Well, we have to realize there are a lot of conspiracies. There is a small group of people who are behind everything, but they're the ones who instigate wars. They're the ones who lie about the history, about how it all started, so we won't realize the wars were all about distraction. And they want to kill us. It's all part of killing us also. And the doctors are the biggest part of the game, as I mentioned in my recent videos, and I've mentioned many times. Going back to that great speech Dr. Russell Troll gave in 1862. 1862, he talked to 5,000 people at the Smithsonian Institute, and or Smithsonian, and there were a lot of authorities there, and he was pleading with them, saying, "My gosh, you know, these soldiers are living in filth. They come down with measles. We give them drugs for that, and they come down with hemoptysis. They start bleeding into the lungs. Give them some drugs for that, then they come down with typhoid, and then they die." It goes through these stages. More soldiers are dying from the drugs we give them because they're living in filth than they are from the actual wounds from the opponents. And Napoleon knew that. He said, doctors will have more lives to answer for in the next world than even we generals. And this is all by design, folks. There are some sick people in charge that are molding our minds and keeping us distracted. Whether it's bread and circuses or pizza and football, or, I ain't going to mention the word. Oh, you guys come out of nowhere and start attacking me. Most of you guys are just probably part of the psyop that is starting all of this, trying to disrupt the truth movement. Remember, folks, my whole YouTube channel is trying to unite two main truth movements. One has to do with the ultimate tool of control. That is our health. A lot of people are waking up to that fact. And the Game Changers is coming to town just in a couple days. I got my tickets. I can't wait to go and watch that. It's going to be the best science ever to show you some of the things we shouldn't eat. It has to do with our health. But then we have the absolute tool of control. And there's a bunch of you guys who are waking up to this. But most of you guys are also getting sucked into these psyops that are getting you to look into things that don't make any difference. Spraying chemicals in the air, we got to stop that, makes a difference. Putting fluoride in our water, that makes a difference. We got to stop that. Injecting vaccines, we got to stop that. Using drugs in the name of medicine, we got to stop that. What I'm talking about now, it doesn't make any difference. So prioritize your conspiracy theories and research. Put your energy into something that's going to make a difference. If you don't like what the government's doing, there's not a whole lot you can do except one thing. Be the best that you can be. Testing ideas, time has come. Take a solid food vacation for the appropriate length of time. Flush out that filth that Victor Hugo called the serpent inside of us. Bump up the biophotons, the coherent sunlight energy that we store in the nucleus of our cells, which allows us to sense we're all one with everything. We do that individually, we'll finally get to the point where we'll reach that tipping point, that 100th monkey, and then we'll all be doing it. And then that changes our mentality. What does it do? It addresses Glockery, the mob rule. And it's so easy to be tricked. We think, oh, we should want to help the people who need help, right? Well, in an ideal world where we had our biphoton levels, we'd be doing that. We would understand that that's what you do. You help everyone who's in need. But we're in a sick society now, folks. And you can't tell people to do that. It just doesn't work. Because the mob is out of control. The only solution to solve just about every problem I've addressed so far is to do one thing. Stop getting distracted. Get reconnected. Prioritize those things we have to do downstream. We've got to stop letting someone print our money. We've got to take back the airwaves. We got to undo all these horrible laws that gave allopathic doctors a monopoly on an industry that should not even exist. It is a treatment peddling industry for lifestyle-related problems. It should not exist. We're not supposed to treat lifestyle-related problems, and we shouldn't give an industry. We shouldn't give an industry a monopoly on this, and then we shouldn't pass these mandatory or health insurance because we don't want to make a blunder upon a blunder. We don't want to finance a system that shouldn't be used anyway. Universal health care coverage would be great if it understood that education is what we need, not medication. Universal health care coverage would be great if it would pay for going to a chiropractor or a massage therapist, or even someone who understands how to take a solid food vacation and bump out the cesspool and bump up the biophotons, which is more important than anything. We don't want to finance a system that's going to use drugs and just create the illusion that they're solving a problem, which is all they do. So there's a lot of things we need to do downstream. A lot of work we need to do downstream. And there's nothing wrong with doing that as long as you've already gone upstream, you bumped up those biophotons. And then if your expertise is in the area of money or medicine or media or government, whatever, then you can do those things that we need to do to take back control and turn this planet back into the paradise it was before we were foolish enough to put our food in the fire and ruin it, spoil it. It's insane. Man is the only creature on this planet that wants to spoil his food before he eats it. What are we thinking of? Well, we're not, are we? We're just addicted. We're under a spell. Whatever deceives men seems to produce a magical enchantment. Yes, I love that quote by Plato. This is what we struggle with. And we're going to continue to struggle until we reach the tipping point. Once we get enough people doing it, then everybody's going to jump on board, and it's going to be much easier for people to do this once that happens. Right now, it's a little bit of a challenge, but once you get into it, once you're committed, once you start going through the transformations, oh man, it is so exciting. Of all the things I've ever done in my life, the most exciting thing I ever did was commit to myself and say, John, go the distance. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't care. I'm going to love the journey, go into it with a good attitude, and document everything. And when you document it, then you understand it. If you don't document it, you might not appreciate it. And I can't get very many people to do that, and I can understand why. But if you're struggling with motivation, I know this will motivate you. When you take a good look at the filth that will come out of you and you haven't put anything in but juices for 2 months, if that doesn't get your attention, something's wrong. And of course, if you've been going 2 months, it will get your attention because a lot of things are clicking in your head by that time. In fact, things start to click right off the bat. Within days, you start noticing a difference in your mental clarity alone. I get that comment all the time. Usually after about 3 days, people say, I felt like a fog just lifted off my brain. My good buddy John, I did a video recently, 78-year-old man, he said in 3 days, all his old age ailments went away. Saw him the other day, and he said, yeah, one of them is I couldn't remember what I was doing. I put the things down, I couldn't remember what it was. 3 days, it went away. Powerful, powerful thing happens when you use nature to heal your body, or when you go back to nature, instead of opting out of nature. As soon as we put our food in the fire, we opted out of nature. And we can get back into it just by understanding what happens when we put our food in fire. Kills the food. Only life comes from life, folks. Common sense, right? Only death comes from death. common sense, right? God, you think it would be. But what happens to most of us? Zip. We shut off our frontal lobe. Did a study back in October 2011, October 9th, called Unrealistic Optimism. You've heard me say this before if you watch my other videos. It helps to understand this story if you haven't heard it, or be reminded of it, even if you have, while you're on the hero's journey. Because you can see this happening right before your eyes. People just shut their brain off. It's like they had a mental processing error. These people were put on MRIs, they hooked up MRIs to the brain, and they asked them 80 questions, and every time they went a place that person didn't want to go, they just shut their brain off. This is how denial works. It's what we do to protect our pleasures. We don't want to entertain the idea that the one thing we love the most doesn't love us back. Oh my God, that's the ultimate unrequited love. My food doesn't love me back. It's killing me. But I love it so much, I don't want to entertain that idea. I can't imagine never having something cooked, whether it's fried chicken or even a baked potato. I just can't imagine. You're under the spell. It's called the hunger spell, folks. You're not supposed to feel hunger down here. It's supposed to be an all-gone feeling up here, a water under the throat. And of course, we also are under the spell because of those Maillard molecules. I did a video recently about what happens when we cook our food. It creates all these new colors, aromas, and flavors. They literally molest our eyes, nose, and taste buds. And now we perceive withdrawal symptoms as hunger. We should not have an all-gone feeling in our stomach. We're not supposed to have this gnawing sensation in our stomach. That's a morbid sensation. It's a sign that your body's wanting some more drugs. No different than any other addict who's craving their drug of choice, and they get their drug and they go, boy, don't I feel better. It's no different. And since we have to eat, that makes this addiction the worst of all addictions. It's a whole lot easier to quit smoking cigarettes because you don't have to exist, or you don't have to have those cigarettes in order to exist. Can't do it without food, unless you can master breatharianism. People keep asking me about that. Do a video on breatharianism. Not in this video. Yep. Distracted, 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 distracted. Every time you turn around, distraction, distraction, distraction. Just the fact that we have the wrong mentality and we have to work for a living means we're distracted all day long. We never have enough time in the day, do we, to do all the things we do? And what do? We come home late, gorge ourselves, and because we don't have much of a life, we end up cutting into our sleep time. Now we don't get adequate sleep, and if you don't get continuous, uninterrupted sleep, you don't recharge your emotional batteries, you don't do any healing. I did a video on the importance of continuous uninterrupted sleep. I'll put a link down below, where 60% of our REM sleep occurs in the last 2 hours. That's huge, folks. If you're not getting your full sleep, you don't need as much when you eat the right foods. But if you don't get into that REM sleep, you're never going to heal. Remember, our bodies are like a chariot being pulled by dozens of horses. We got to make sure all those horses are strong, and we have to identify all of the weak horses. 12 of those horses have to do our 12 essential needs. That's where we have an environment, and we have to interact with that environment. So there's air, water, food, sunshine, exercise, sleep, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, even the community we live in. Then we have to be free of things outside of our control and free of things that don't belong inside of us. And we need to procreate. And then there's the environment. So there are 12 needs altogether. The environment and then those 11 other ways that we interact. So those are horses we got to identify. For some of us, we got to go, oh my God, look at my sleep horse. It's really weak. I'm not sleeping. I'm trying your diet, but it's not working. What's wrong? You got a weak horse up there you got to attend. But then remember, we have these 2 additional temporary needs, 10 of which are those subsequent needs because we're sick and disconnected, like the government, the media, and money. Simple solution for those needs, get reconnected. But the problem here, and what has to do with these other horses especially, is how we're damaged. Did a great video called What is the Healthiest Diet for Humans, where I talk about 10 body systems. So now we got 10 more horses up there that we got to be aware of. Are any of them weak? In most cases, yeah, our lymph system, it's not filtering. That's why I'm sick. And how do you get the lymph system filtering? You got to eat your species-specific diet. You can take a solid food vacation on nothing but juices, and that will clean out the main bathroom we have. The lymph system is the other bathroom. I explained this much more detail in What is the Healthiest Diet for Humans, that we have 2 main bathrooms. One is the lymph system, the other is our digestive system. Take a solid food vacation, you clean out that system and the lymph system. Once you get this bathroom clean, then you eat a whole bunch of juicy fruits that are our species-specific diet that will clean our lymph system, and that's how we maintain a clean lymph system. Now, why does the lymph system stop working? In most cases, it's because our kidneys are no longer filtering the lymph system. And I go into detail in that in this real long video, What is the Healthiest Diet for Humans? We don't eat the right foods, we damage the kidneys, or we're really, really stressed, and that damages the adrenals, which are the control glands for the kidneys. Now, in either case, the kidneys aren't filtering the lymph system backs up, and that's the disease process. That's the oneness of disease. The uniqueness of disease has to do with all of our horses. Not all of us have the same weak horses up there. Some of us are getting good sleep, some of us aren't. Some of us are getting enough sunshine, some of us aren't. Some of us are exercising, some of us are not. So what is your weak horse, folks? Is your exercise horse weak? Is your sleep horse weak? Are you being distracted? Is there a distraction horse up there? Where is the distraction? The reins? The distraction are the blinders? Not on the horses, but on us. We can't even see those horses. We don't know about those horses. Our doctors don't know about them. They don't blame our needs, but they do go look at the body systems, don't they? Oh, most diseases are due to inappropriate signals. That's what the experts are taught. That way we can interfere with the law of cause and effect. It's okay, we have to. The body's just messing up. It's not the case, folks. Disease is a bodily process. That's what it is. And it's based on us not satisfying our needs. Simple solution. Satisfy those 2 groups of needs. Evaluate ourselves, because we got to, number 1, give the body everything it needs. If you're taking a solid food vacation, number 2, you got to support those organs of elimination. The third thing you have to do, no matter what, is you got to identify those weak horses and support those weak horses. Make all your horses strong, and when you make all your horses strong, ow! You're in for a treat.